3 whole piercing damage.
Worth it.
Worth it. Let us move past the big summer game announcements fest that we've done over the last couple weeks and talk about something a little bit more analog, let's say.
Clocks.
Yes. Definitely clocks. But also, in a recent episode where we were talking about character classes, we mentioned that Barbarian is like a really weird thing.
Well, I think you mentioned it. I made a comment that, well...
I'm looping you in because I don't want to be alone on this. But I had mentioned, fine, I'll own it, that it's really weird to, like, say, you know, when I grow up, like, I can understand people are like, hey, I want to become a wizard. I want to become, a paladin or something. But I want to become a barbarian. Didn't really seem like a choice you'd imagine people making.
Yeah. Barbarian's an interesting one compared to, like, a fighter or cleric or, some of those can be professions.
Sure.
Like, if you are a cleric, you are a church, clergyman, essentially, or a divine prophet, or, holy warrior is more of the paladin thing.
Sure.
But, like, a ranger can be, like, a profession. Fighter, you can be like, all right, yeah, I'm a fighter. I'm also, like, part of the militia. That's kind of a profession. And wizard is scholarly, a lot of these things you can see as, like, partial, like, professions. But barbarian is a little weird because it's like, okay, well, barbarian is more of a lifestyle.
Okay.
If you want to think of it that way, typically when you think of the connotations of a barbarian in D&D, it is you are part of a tribe of nomads and similar stuff, or a camp of more like outskirts of town, but you're more of a tribe, and barbarian is just like your culture, if you will. Like, it seems more that way. I know it's not, like, something that it depicts specifically in the book necessarily for D&D, but a barbarian typically is, like, your culture is of these, like, lightly armored, close to nature warriors who whip into a frenzy to deal damage and to kill things, all that stuff.
Fun.
So, you were saying that barbarian, what were you saying about it?
Well, that it just doesn't seem like the kind of thing that, like, a character that you'd play just suddenly up and says, well, I guess this is my profession now.
Yeah. So barbarian's a little weird in that fit, because you don't really, I want to grow up and be a barbarian. It's more like, no, I kind of, and I think in most people, when they play barbarian, it's like, yeah, I kind of grew up in a tribe, maybe, of barbarians, but I don't think people necessarily put that much thought into it, but...
Sure.
Whereas other synonyms that you could use for barbarian could be like a rage fighter, or a frenzied berserker, or a berserker itself, or anything similar to that. It's where, instead of just being a strict fighter trained, it's just you kind of go, I'm kind of strong and I get mad.
Yeah.
I channel all my anger and fury into devastating attacks.
Sure.
Sure. So it's one of those weird spaces because, yeah, you've got your fighter and they are disciplined, and the barbarian tends to not be a disciplined fighter. They're not trained in as many weapons, they're not trained in as much armor. They generally eschew the heavier armors in favor of just raw toughness.
Sure.
So it's one of those things where I think, for instance, barbarian can be interesting if you've got someone mad, angry, somebody who just kind of goes off the handle. Maybe you don't want to be just a normal fighter. Maybe you're like, yeah, maybe I've just got an anger issue, so I'm going to take a couple levels on barbarian for rage. For instance, my character, Hephaestus, was a druid, but he also had he was also a were-tiger, and he was kind of had animal instincts some of the time.
Sure.
So it would have been in my character's flavor to have dipped into barbarian for rage, because it would make sense with, okay, well, he's kind of animalistic and kind of gets a little uncivilized sometimes, so putting him into barbarian would definitely add that touch of, okay, well, he's just kind of wild now. That kind of thing can add flavor to it as a class.
What, since I never really, did a lot of research into Barbarian, because frankly, it's probably the class I was least likely to ever play, what does Rage actually do?
Without looking at it and trying to remember offhand, Rage, makes your strength and damage and everything go up. Your constitution go up, so you gain temporary hit points.
Okay.
So you do more damage, you gain temporary hit points. Occasionally, I think you can do other things with it depending on your archetype and whatnot. I think it reduces your AC a little bit.
Okay.
And then after you've raged, you're fatigued until you rest. But you can rage for a certain amount of rounds per day, I think.
Got it.
We could look it up, but it's lengthy and I don't want to read it. So anyone who's not familiar with Rage, look it up. But I believe, you gain I think it's +2 to strength or +4 to strength, depending on your level, which will add 1 and 2 or 3 to damage. And then you gain hit points based on your improved constitution score. And then you lose maybe 2 AC, but you gain improved hit points and damage. So you're looking it up.
I am, just so that I can, just so that we don't have to think about it.
Sure, I don't like thinking anyways.
Okay, so here's what actually happens with Rage. In battle, you fight with Primal Ferocity. On your turn, you can enter a Rage as a bonus action.
Yes.
While raging, you gain the following benefits if you aren't wearing heavy armor.
Yeah, barbarians do not wear heavy armor, except if you've got a subclass of it that lets you.
Okay.
They issue that because they get damage reduction naturally, so...
Fair enough. You have advantage on strength checks and strength saving throws.
Okay, yeah. Forgot about that.
You can make a melee weapon attack using strength. You gain a +2 bonus to the damage roll. This bonus increases as you level. Okay, I see that. There's increased bonuses to 3 and 4 when you get into higher levels. You have resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage.
Nice, okay, they changed. I was thinking of an older version of Rage, I guess.
You must have been thinking 3.5.
Now, resistance in 5e means you take half damage, right?
It's half damage, yeah.
Which makes that really broken.
Right, because bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing are the 3 most common ways you're going to get damage.
Any non-magical weapons.
Yeah, exactly. This is probably the reason why you can't do this with heavy armor, because if you took heavy armor mastery and you had that while you were raging, you basically never take damage.
You just need some adamantine light armor.
Yes. Oh my god.
Anyways, continue.
If you are able to cast spells, you can't cast them or concentrate on them while raging.
Right, this is why in 3.5 there was a prestige class called a Rage Mage, which actually lets you cast spells while you were raged.
Oh my, that seems dangerous.
Yeah, especially if you're throwing fireballs in melee.
Yeah. Your rage lasts for 1 minute. It ends early if you're knocked unconscious, or if your turn ends and you haven't attacked a hostile creature since your last turn or taken damage since then. You can also end your rage on your turn as a bonus action. And once you've raged the maximum number of times for your barbarian level, you must finish a long rest before you can rage again. You may rage 2 times at first level, 3 at 3rd, 4 at 6th, 5 at 12th, and 6 at 7th. That seems
strangely
more than
tight to level.
Yeah. It's
honestly, I would change that to a short rest to regain a expenditure of rage personally.
Right.
Because it seems a little weird that they can't, sorcerers and wizards gain some stuff back when they short rest. But
Sure.
that's your main class feature as a barbarian, so I feel like it would be you'd want a short rest to regain the use of it.
Yeah.
And then have a clause in there if you rage like more times than you normally could in a day, you know, you get fatigued or something.
Right. And then adding on to that is stuff like reckless attack, where basically you can have advantage on melee attack rolls, but then you also have advantage given towards enemies that are attacking you. Yeah. Like I said, I know that some people really love playing Barbarians. I think it's probably the class I had the least amount of interest in playing.
They can be fun.
Yeah.
You can do some really interesting stuff with them if you mix rage with like reckless attack. It's like, I am a frontline berserker, I'm wearing no armor.
Yeah.
Conan style.
Oh, sure.
You know, loincloth and a great axe.
Yeah.
Or, you know, some interesting builds of that.
I imagine that Barbarians were kind of created because people wanted to do like the Conan the Barbarian.
Probably.
I imagine that lore is one of the
reasons
why, but
I know that there are other variants of rage classes, like the Battle Rager, I think, is one that used to be a class, but
sure.
what that was is a heavy armored variant. And a Battle Rager was someone who would wear like heavy spiked armor and would go in grappling.
Oh, okay.
So they would essentially like grab their enemies and like hug them with all of the spikes on their armor and stab them and stuff. It's like, I'm just gonna go in and grapple you and throw you down and tackle you and like wrestle you while I'm wearing stuff that will hurt you a lot.
That's like a huggable spike growth.
Yeah. It's like if you it's like if you use a spike shield, for instance.
Yeah.
You know, that's a weapon. It's not just a shield.
Absolutely. So there's that, and at third level on those, obviously you get the class. So when we're talking about the paths, are we thinking that the reason is because of like the clan, the society that you came from is the reason why you pick different paths? Like from a
potentially, I mean, I think it's closer tied to like a Native American tribe type deal, where you'd have the totems and whatnot. Granted, I'm not sure if it's just like Native American or just in general tribal. But sure. I know for the you can be the path of the totem warrior, I think is one of them.
Yeah.
And you pick a different aspect each time you gain something from that. I don't remember what the other one is though, or is it all totem path in the base?
What? There's a. Oh my god, you're gonna make me look up stuff. Barbarian.
Yeah, you're already there.
I'm already there. Okay, fine. I'll just tell you what the barbarian class is. Subclasses. All right, subclass list. All right, an easy guide to paths. Thank you so much, Roleplayers Respite. Okay, let's see if I can tell you what we've got. So we've got a Path of the Berserker, Totem Warrior, Battle Rager, Ancestral Guardian, Storm Herald, Zealot, and I think that's it. I think those are the only. There might be more, but this is all they had as of 2020. This article. I'm sure there's more now. But I know the Ancestral Guardian is more of like has some spell abilities that.
Sure. I mean they've done a lot of that with their stuff, so.
Yeah. And then the Totem Warrior, takes on aspects of animals to improve combat prowess. So if you really want to do that,
there's definitely some fun ones in there.
Yeah.
I'm curious what the Battle Rager is now.
Oh, well, I mean, I can tell you that.
Yes, please.
The only barbarian path that came out of Sword Coast Adventures Guide, they say this is weird, but they get access to a special type of medium armor, which is spiked armor.
Yes.
That armor fuels a lot of the class features. So in medium armor, which means that you get the benefits of rage, and you still add the +2 to your armor class. but you don't need to prioritize dex. The 6th level feature, Reckless Abandon, means that you gain temporary hit points equal to your Constitution modifier. So if you don't have any temp hit points, you can re-up it every time you attack recklessly. Interesting.
So what do you do?
You gain... If you don't have any temp hit points, you can re-up it every time you attack recklessly. Okay, so by...
That's worded poorly.
Wait. Okay. Reckless Abandon. Anytime you use Reckless Attack, you gain temporary hit points equal to your Constitution modifier.
But only if you don't have temporary hit points already.
Yes.
That's weird.
You gain temporary... you can re-up it every time. Oh no, I guess you can do it.
Anyways, so I think if you wanted to do a Battle Rager, it'd be really great as a... What do you get from having the spiked armor? Is it a weapon attack?
I don't know.
Also, I would totally use, like, some bladed chittin.
It says that the most that you'd really do from spiked armor is like 3 piercing damage. The way that it's done in 5e.
Okay.
3 whole piercing damage.
Worth it.
Worth it.
I would, if I was gonna do a barbarian and I wanted to do like a battle rager, for instance, I would be like, all right, well, I'm also gonna take a class level in monk. And then you get the flurry of blows, and you get unarmed damage. That's way better. So you take unarmed damage and just grapple.
Okay.
Then you just throw yourself at the enemy.
Okay. Yeah.
And you just pummel them to pieces.
So I'm gonna give you a little bit of a thing. There's a site I like to visit when I'm trying to get into the mechanics part of D&D. That's called rpgbot.net. I don't actually think it's a bot. I think it's actually somebody who writes these articles. But they do whole breakdowns of subclasses, and they even color code them from, like, bad to great.
I think I've seen that.
Yeah, and it's handy as a little thing. And they say that the path of the Battle Rager is basically not very great. as far as classes go.
Yeah.
And, but ones like Ancestral Guardian is, like, the GOAT, Path of the Beast, which is, fairly new. Berserker, not good, apparently. Path of the Berserker, it's iconic. If you want to get mad and wreck people's faces, the Berserker is a fine choice. But the ability, they have a signature ability called Frenzy that has a complicated interaction with the exhaustion rules.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think some of these might be better if you just house rule some of the stuff. Like I said, where the short rest would give you a charge of rage back, for instance. A little bit of modifying it to make it more friendly might be nice.
Yeah. On the other hand, if you take Path of the Totem Warrior, it's considered one of the most versatile kinds of classes for barbarians. And if you take the bear as your totem spirit, it says, you are basically an unstoppable pile of damage resistance and hit points. Good. Enjoy. So, a lot of different things there. And also Path of Wild Magic, which is a little bit like Wild Magic Sorcerer.
You get spell-like abilities and stuff? You
get some spell-like abilities, yeah. It comes with a wild magic table.
Nice. Those are interesting and fun. Wild magic is one of those areas that are hit or miss sometimes, obviously.
You roll on a table, like, to figure out what the effects are.
Yeah. Speaking of wild magic, when you first joined our D&D game and you were in Nomengard, it's a wild magic area.
Oh, great.
And as you were casting spells, I was rolling on the table to see if anything would happen. Nothing happened, which is why you didn't know it was a wild magic area.
Yeah.
But I was rolling on the table to see if anything would happen.
Oh God. That's good to know. And considering I'm like the only spellcaster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Well,
I think
I
it was
should say
any.
the Hawksbane does no spells too.
Sure, I think it was any spell over level that was above a cantrip that got cast would be wild magic. Cantrips didn't affect it for whatever reason. So, anyways,
I don't even remember what I cast. So,
don't even. Anyways, so Barbarian, a lot of options. A lot of them deal with dealing massive damage, being a huge HP sponge, and just the general function of getting really mad and wrecking things and having different like animal spirits, totems, things like that, being really close to like nature and guardian spirits.
Sure. Okay.
So I think if you think of Barbarian as more of a way of life than a profession,
okay,
I think it fits more than with what you're thinking of generally as classes.
Yeah, maybe that's why it always felt a little out of place for me compared to a lot of them, because it always feels like when we're talking about classes, we're talking about a very specific choice that characters have made in the path that they're going down, and Barbarian, the way it sounds and the way you've made it sound is that it is really the life that you were almost born into that is what you've known the entire time.
It's kind of, I mean, in a similar fashion, a monk and a warlock.
That's true.
Because I don't think you typically go, yes, I'm a monk as a profession. You go, I kind of want to adopt the monk lifestyle.
Right.
And then you go to like a monastery and you learn monk things.
Yeah.
You know, how to be an immortal deity, essentially, by level 20.
Right.
And then warlock is like, yes, I would like to make a pact with this creature, devil, demon, angel, or sentient weapon. Yeah. It's like these are choices you make in your life that are not just like, I'm a fighter. No, it's like, I'm gonna make a pact with this demon for power. I'm gonna join this monastery because I don't need to eat, breathe, or sleep ever again.
Yeah, these are choices that feel like they are beyond going out on adventures. These are life choices that you've made. I mean, in some ways, I guess you could make the same, you could make the same argument for even clerics and paladins and stuff like that.
Sure.
You've made a literal life decision.
I think it'd be interesting to approach character creation from the point of life choices rather than just background and class choices, to be like, I want to do a monk, and you're like, here's the reason I became a monk. I think that'd be an interesting way to fill out some backstory.
It would be interesting if you kind of did the almost reverse design your character, so that you're like, okay, I don't know what class I'm playing, I don't know that. I'm going to figure out what my character is, and then based on what the storyline is, will determine what the character is. Because that's going to inform a lot about who I am.
Right.
I think that there's a lot of times people are like, well, this is the class I want to play, and so I'm going to play that class, and we'll figure out what my character is that got you there. I think that it would be interesting to actually just say, okay, here's the storyline I have about the character that got you to point A, and then we'll figure out what class makes the most sense for that character after you've done that.
Yes.
Yeah. Because I could say I just want to, like, raise the dead. Well, that's
which is what you keep saying.
Yeah. And I know that I have two options for that, pretty much.
Next week on the show, Nathan raises the dead.
And decides if I want to do that as a wizard or a cleric. That's the big thing. Choose. Anyway, if you have an idea about why you wanted to be a barbarian, or if you do want to be a barbarian at all, let us know in the comments down below, or over on our Discord channel.